Today we're going to talk about generosity stories. When I say generosity, what or who comes to mind? Maybe it's a neighbor who readily shares the summer bounty from their garden, or the unknown person ahead of you in the drive-thru who paid for your order one time. For my friend Steve, it's the anonymous church member who paid to replace his failed home furnace during a bitter winter when Steve could not afford the expense. Generous people recognize that living generously isn't about the size of gift they contribute or the accolades they receive. Generosity is a way of living graciously and open-handed with one another. It rejects the presumption of scarcity, that there won't be enough, so I have to hold tight to what I have. It's an act of love, caring for others and the world with confidence that there is enough for all. Now, the world tells us there isn't enough. Not enough time, not enough money, not enough energy, not enough room. But all around us are glimpses of generosity. Each of us has benefited in ways large and small by the generosity of someone else. Where have you experienced generosity in your life? Who taught you generosity, and how did they teach you? After this video, take some time to reflect on your own experiences. If you're watching this with your stewardship team, share with one another. If you're viewing this on your own, take a moment to write down your own story so you can share it with others at a later time. Proverbs 27:17 tells us, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Stories of generosity sharpen, they inspire. These stories challenge the constant narrative of scarcity which bombards us every day. Generosity stories model faithful living. We serve a generous God whose stories and promises of generosity are abundant through Scripture. We need to talk more about the generosity we've witnessed and experienced so we can sharpen one another to grow in generosity. As you hear these stories, let's capture them. I encourage you to find several mediums to use in sharing generosity stories in the congregation. Stories could be prepared in written form and shared in newsletters or collated into a book. They can be presented via video, shown during or ahead of worship and posted on social media. A story could be told during a temple talk or stewardship moment, or shared together in small group gatherings such as a confirmation class or Bible study or council meeting. Find a combination of methods that works for you in your congregation. Whatever you decide, commit to sharing more stories of generosity with one another.
Thanks, Jenny. Generosity stories are so important. We don't learn generosity without hearing from others and learning how others have discovered to be generous. One of the first generosity stories I ever remember hearing was from a woman who was a member of the first congregation I served. She shared with me that her husband and she were unable to tithe 10%, which they had heard as the normal and what would be expected. She said there was just no way they could figure out how to do that. And so they covenanted with one another to grow by a percentage each year in their giving. And when Bob died, they were giving away 38% of their income. When I first heard that story, I didn't even know that was allowed. But I learned from them what it is to share a generosity story and to look at yourself on a generosity journey and having the ability to grow. I'll never forget when I was in Virginia Beach one year leading a stewardship workshop, and I shared with a group assembled that if they currently were giving less than $200 a year to their congregation, that on behalf of the congregation, I was inviting them to grow their giving to $1 a day. And I remember seeing a woman sitting up front who kind of teared up, and I could tell that something was going on in her life as I shared that. And she came up to me after the session with a tear in her eye, and she said, "Thank you so much." She said, I felt guilty about my giving for all of my life. She said, in fact, I usually will quit going to church in the month of October because I know that my giving isn't what it should be. In fact, she wouldn't even serve on congregation council because she knew she wasn't a leader in giving. But she looked at me and she said, you know what? I can do $1 a day. And in fact, I can do more than that. And because you asked, I will do that and I'll exceed it and I'll begin to grow in my generosity journey. Without telling generosity stories, some people will feel shame and guilt around their giving. Without telling generosity stories, we won't help people grow and recognize just how fun it can be to give away money and that it doesn't have to be a burden, but can be a great opportunity. So let's get out there and let's share our story with the world so that other people can grow and learn, and we will grow and learn as we hear the stories of others.